I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a,
they tried house arrest or
I think it would be tough for the public to take. At a certain point, there's a breaking point.
And joining me this morning is Republican National Committee co-chair and the president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So you heard Donald Trump just there respond to the possibility of getting sentenced to jail or house arrest. He says he's okay with it, but he's not sure if the public will stand for it, and that, quote, at a certain point, there's a breaking point. What does that look like? What is he saying will happen?
I think you've seen already what's happened. It's that the American people have really spoken up. And Casey, they've spoken with their wallets and their pocketbooks, even in a time where our economy is in such bad shape, thanks to horrific policies by Joe Biden. The American people came out, and in 48 hours after Donald Trump's verdict was read, our campaign and the RNC raised $70 million in digital fundraising. This is small dollar donations. And I think the amazing statistic to take out of that is that 30% of that money came in from people who had never once donated to Donald Trump. People are very upset about what they saw happen this week to someone should never have had a case brought against him. We all know that if his name had been anything other than Donald Trump, this case would have never seen the light of day. And what people are seeing now is that they can't trust our judicial system. They are very worried about the America that we are facing if this is the precedent we are setting in the United States. And so I think that was a very quick, very rapid, and a very strong response from the American people. It has gone way too far. The judicial system being weaponized against a political opponent. The American people are upset, and they spoke out about it.
Lara, this was a jury of regular Americans. Do you not trust them?
Well, let's be honest. This case from the very beginning was weighed against Donald Trump. Let's look at the fact that this case was not brought by the FEC. They looked at this years ago. They said there's no case here. It wasn't brought by Cy Vance, the former district attorney of Manhattan. It wasn't even brought by Alvin Bragg himself until when? Until Donald Trump decided to run for president and he started gaining momentum. Then they decided to bring it forward. Then they had to rush it into court where in downtown Manhattan, where we know the majority of people in that city did not vote for Donald Trump. They are not fans of his. Miraculously, and defying all possible statistics as well, this judge managed to get 3 anti-Trump cases. Steve Bannon, Alan Weisselberg, the former CFO of the Trump Organization, and Donald Trump. He donated, this judge, to the Biden campaign. His daughter raises money for the opposition for Democrats.
But I asked you about the jury
His wife works
specifically.
for Letitia James. I'm not done. You had a judge who told the jury that they did not have to be unanimous in their decision. They could come up with a whole host of different ideas, and then they could come in and present it to him, and they would work it out together. This case from the beginning has been slanted. The venue should never have been in New York City because even
they did, though, have to be
poll,
unanimous
13%
on
of
the
people
documents
believe
charges.
that Donald Trump was.
And again, I asked you about the jury, the normal
poll.
Americans that are part of this. Do you think it's not possible for anyone
Correct.
to get a fair trial by a jury?
I think that this judge should have never been presiding over this case. He weighed the entire case in the eyes of the jury, and then he gave the jury instructions that were incredibly leading. And you can't blame the jury. They were doing what he told them to do. So from the beginning, this case, whether you're talking about the judge, the venue, the instructions given, or the fact that a key witness that would have exonerated Donald Trump and shown what a waste of time this entire case ultimately was, the judge wouldn't allow in. So you can't blame the jury for their decision. But the entire case has been slanted.
I do want to note the former president had an opportunity to testify. He could have. And I also want to note, of course, he does plan to appeal this. Just to circle back to what we did hear from the former president this morning, this judge, who you just criticized extensively, is the person that is going to decide whether or not the former president will go to jail. What should Donald Trump supporters do if that happens?
Well, they're going to do what they've done from the beginning, which is remain calm and protest at the ballot box on November 5th. There's nothing to do other than make your voices heard loud and clear and speak out against this, because this is not the United States of America, Casey. This is the kind of thing you would expect to see in the communist USSR. So they shouldn't do anything until voting starts, and then they're going to come out in droves. And I believe Donald Trump will be reelected as the 47th president.
So you, of course, are the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, and your party is set to nominate the former president for president again. And that's set to happen right now, just 4 days after he is set to be sentenced on July 11th. Are you planning or discussing any changes to the convention in programming or scheduling?
Well, I think we have to be ready for anything. As we've seen, all bets are off when it comes to Donald Trump. So, yeah, we have to wait and see. It's ironic to me you had to rush this case through, and now we have to wait over a month, of course, for sentencing. Everyone can read into the irony of that, of course. But yes, we have to make plans as they happen, and we're going to have several contingency plans. The truth is, it really doesn't matter whether it's from Trump Tower in Manhattan, whether it's from Mar-a-Lago, whether it's from our convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We will nominate Donald Trump as our Republican nominee, and that's what ultimately matters.
All right. So at this point, you also have to consider how independent voters may actually take this in. This is going to be an incredibly close election. It could come down to a handful of these independents in critical swing states. Are you going to lose votes because of this conviction?
Well, I think the polls right after the verdict show that actually the opposite has happened. You had a 6% jump, or 6-point jump rather, for Donald Trump right after this conviction was read. And as I noted, 30% of the donations and small dollars that have come in since the verdict have been new donors. That translates into votes. What we understand is that when somebody donates even $1, Casey, to a campaign, they are going to ultimately turn out and vote for that person. They are bought in. And so I think what matters to people right now isn't Donald Trump in downtown Manhattan, a case that everybody can see was weighed against him, that never should have seen the light of day. They care about their lives. They care about the fact that they can't make ends meet right now, that it's harder to put food on the table for their families, that they can't fill their gas tank up in the same way, that they're worried about the future of the world because we have a war in Europe. We have a war in the Middle East. They want to get back to the days when they felt safe and secure as Americans with their economy and with the rest of the world. And we know who brought that to them. It was Donald J. Trump. And I believe they're going to come out and vote for him solely because of that.
How much of the money that is being raised, that has been raised, is going to be used to pay for the former president's legal fees?
Well, everybody has an option whenever they donate to our joint fundraising agreement to opt out of it. It is a very small percentage of the money that we take in. And so I would have to say we'll wait and see what is necessary in the future. Obviously, this has been a very costly thing, not just for Donald Trump and his campaign, but for America. The stain that this has put on our country, I think, is abominable. And we'll do whatever we need to do to ensure that the right thing happens on November 5th, because that's when the ultimate verdict will be rendered.
Republican Senate candidate Larry Hogan in Maryland, and again, I'm asking you this in your capacity as one of the co-chairs of the